What's up, guys? I'm Chelsea Hernandez, music editor at Swagger RS, and you're now tuned into my podcast, Time Out, where I have conversations with music related subjects about their workings in music.
Hey y'all, what's up? I'm Chelsea Hernandez, music editor with Swagger RS, and you are tuned into Time Out. Today we have Boslen. How are you? Loving the energy.
What's up? What's up? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I wanted to start this off with a quote from you. Oh no, it's not bad.
Okay, I thought it was gonna be bad. Okay, go.
No, not bad at all. So you mentioned being an Indigenous man, being a Black man at the age I am now, people tend to turn their shoulders if you show vulnerability or want to cry and be sensitive. I'm supposed to come off hard because I'm a rapper, but Dusk to Dawn came from the light and the dark. So I wanted you to kind of explain that quote a bit more, and then how does Dusk to Dawn tie in with vulnerability and sensitivity?
Right off the bat, hey, congrats. That's hard. We rolling now, but yeah, that quote, I think more than anything, I really meant it from like, a very special place. I grew up basically an hour outside of where I am now. It's called Chilliwack, BC, and I'm in Vancouver right now. So that quote really kind of resonated from a place where I was like just around the people I was around. Nothing against the town I grew up in, but I felt being a young Indigenous man and like Jamaican as well, I felt just kind of isolated and in a mentality where like being vulnerable or like looking upon of like crying or even just, like expressing your emotions to anybody, I felt it was looked upon as like weakness. But like through making this album, I found that was the most empowering thing for me. And it really just kind of help me find who I am as Corbin, not necessarily Boslen anymore. So I think being true to yourself was so important for me, like in the creation of this process of this album. And what was the second question, Zai? I forgot.
You kind of answered it. It was how does Dusk to Dawn tie in with like vulnerability and sensitivities?
Yeah, vulnerability and and I think vulnerability and being empowered are so like we're all human. I feel like that's not something we're touched on enough, especially in a society where COVID did just happen, and a lot of people have had the time to just sit with themselves and think. So I think more than anything, it's a time where expressing yourself in any way that you want is like looked upon as, in some areas it's a gray area, but I want to bring that to like the mainstream and make it okay to just have a conversation with somebody or express yourself through a song. Because growing up, like artists like a Kid Cudi or artists like, even The Weeknd, vulnerability to them and them being weak, that's how I resonated with them. That's why I connected with them. And being those type of artists are the artists that I aspire to be. So if I can help someone, like that's isolated or going through maybe even the same thing or like opposite things, then that's like my goal, to just leave a legacy like that.
Nice. All right. Yeah. I mean, it's such a taboo. Pre-COVID, it was such a taboo to like for men to be sensitive and vulnerable. And now, like you mentioned, it's kind of, it's a bit more talked about.
Yeah.
But yeah. You mentioned, being Indigenous, and I was kind of doing some research and I saw where I think you did an interview with, or you did an essay with Atwood magazine. But you mentioned that, you grew up with a single mom who, raised you in Indigenous culture. You never met your birth dad, and Black history wasn't something that was a huge part of your life back then. You were never like exposed to that. So how do you think now, being, I don't want to say being aware, but now being more understanding of your culture, how do you think that translates over into your music?
It's a really good question. First and foremost, I want to give like some appreciation, because in that interview, I think she might have missed it, or whoever wrote it, but I do have a stepdad and he literally taught me everything I know. Like he's like my superhero. His name is Chris. So I love him so much. And I met him when I was like 9. But yeah, growing up, I did have a single mother for a bit there, and we were only raised with the Indigenous type of background. So being like kind of not necessarily torn away, but not exposed to Black history, anything like that, I didn't really know anything else. Like I didn't think I was missing out on anything because I didn't know what I was missing out on. And then as soon as I kind of got into hip hop and all that, that's when it really started to help me with my music, because I feel like knowing more about your past, like it just makes it more real, like the stories you tell and like how you tell it. So on this album specifically, I think there was even like a song like so a song like Dawn, like it's the outro on the album. It's my personal favorite song. And the very ending, I wanted to end on a very grand like scene and like a feeling, and like the lyrics more than anything, I was talking about like slavery and chains. And I feel like in a day and age now where a lot of Black people, especially in music, like they're almost praised in a way, when it's crazy because like let's take, I don't know, thousands of years ago they weren't. So just that contrast right there, it just sparked so much inspiration for me of just having knowledge on it.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna you kind of touched on it. I was gonna ask you like what your favorite lyric was from any of the songs on Dusk to Dawn, just because there's a lot of you say a lot of like deep things in that song and a lot of like or in that album.
Yeah.
And so it was like I was trying to like figure out what would he like, what would be his favorite or most memorable kind of like lyric be off of that album. But
I have so many. Like I think it's like choosing like man, it's tough. Probably it changes. My favorite right now is Dawn. It's the outro because I feel like that song by itself, it really shows a person like what Dust to Dawn means and what I wanted it to mean. And like that's like honestly escapism, being introspective. And really that song, like it shows the light and dark side because it starts slow and steady and then it builds up into like a grand scheme of things. And I guess for a lyric, let me think. There's so many.
I'm gonna put you on the spot, but
No, I'm happy you did. Thank you. There's one specific. I'm just trying to think of that when the bass hits. It's a new dawn, my people. What up the God for evil straight from the clouds? We leave the fucking manja. Pass me the couple more liquor right till it's dust and reaching. And night after night we power. Look what we become. Conquered everything for hours. We the new era. My nigga praises till we powder. I think that's my favorite line because I feel like coming from Vancouver more than anything and coming from the place I did come from, I feel like an underdog. And I feel like, I aspire to be a trailblazer one day. And I'm not saying I'm the person that's doing it. I'm not saying I'm Drake or whatever by any means. I'm just saying I know how badly I want it. I know how badly my team wants it and how hard we work. So we use that as inspiration to push each other. And I feel like that lyric more than anything, like this is the new dawn, like this is a new era, like it's just kind of reaffirming something that I've been trying to push my entire life. And that can be talked upon in sports and the way you hold yourself as a young man and the way you hold yourself as a team, as a leader, as anything. And I feel like people can resonate with that. So,
yeah.
So I love it.
No, I thank you. I mean, yeah. I know it's a hard question and I'm sorry for like putting you on the spot, but it's interesting to hear, because I mean, it's a lot of artists pour their hearts out into the projects that they make and into every song that they write, and every song has some meaning, and every song is deep in a way to them. So I'm sorry for like putting you on the spot and having you like pick a specific lyric from
I like talking about the album. Like I love it. So if any question can help me.
All right. Well, you mentioned that Dust to Dawn kind of mixes, I don't know if you mentioned it specifically, but Dust to Dawn mixes like trap, pop, punk, rock, and it's also inspired by Vancouver. Like what parts of Vancouver did you draw inspiration from? How is it inspired by Vancouver, and why did you decide to mix those elements together for this project?
Have you had a chance to listen to the project?
I did.
What was your thoughts before I dive into that? And be honest, honestly, I'm curious.
Honestly, I was going to ask you what your favorite song was. And while I was like coming up with that question, I was like trying to figure out, well, what would my favorite song be? And I tried to narrow it down, but like, I like Vultures, Have You, and Deny, but really the whole album is so good
Thank you. I
that
appreciate
like,
it.
yeah, like I don't even feel comfortable saying that I have a specific favorite because I genuinely enjoyed all of the songs.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I feel like a lot of songs are like different. We tapped into so many genres, but I think for the inspiration of the project, it really just came from like how I mentioned it yesterday, like sorry, like a couple sentences ago, like the true inspiration where it came from, it's like kind of like a dark place. It's called like escapism. So like kind of like running from something like, you know, you don't really want to go back to in a way. And I feel like a lot of people could relate to that right off the bat. That's where I started it, because when I made the project, when I was getting going, the first songs I had was Vultures, My Ways, and Have You, I believe. And I didn't know where I wanted to go. I didn't have the theory of Dust to Dawn or the light or the dark or like any of the production in mind or nothing. And I really wanted it just to be known that I want people to know who Corbin is. Like I want them to know why I'm here and why I do the things I do. And even tap into a place that's not so dark and like evil by any means, but just be human. Because I feel like we live in an age where this mask is always on and like you don't know who I am. I don't know who you are. And it's just breaking that fourth wall right off the bat. That's what I love to see in movies. That's why I love to, that's how I like the closest friends I have, just those deep talks. So tapping into uncomfortable situations was something I wanted to just explore. And when it resonated to the city, I feel like that's where like the grand scheme came from, because I feel like sounds and the sonics and the direction we really took Dust to Dawn was never represented from Vancouver before, or this side of Canada. And that's something I feel like a lot of kids out here are able to do. And I just feel like I'm just was to happen to be the first one that tapped into it. And there's thousands of kids like me in this city, and it's beautiful. And I feel like I'm just representing for them just as much as they're representing for me. And I feel like there's really a time and a place where Vancouver will get its like spotlight. And I just hope that this is just part of that, you know, that journey to get there. Dust to Dawn is really like a representation of, you know, we pulled inspirations from this philosopher, his name's Carl Jung, and he kind of played with the idea of what a shadow theory is. And we use that for the branding, and that's connected in like the music videos, to the merch, to the track list, to like everything. I really wanted to build a world with this album. And Carl Jung and his philosophy was basically everybody has like a shadow and it's projected. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Have you heard of it before?
It's vaguely familiar, so I'm sure
Yeah.
I have at some point.
Well, basically, yeah, it's like everybody projects it. It's like their insecurities on someone else, and it's like what you truly think about what yourself is, but you ultimately just like, you know, push that on someone else as like negativity. And I felt like I wanted to tap into that, and I felt like I really tapped into that on like the intro and the outro, and even Forsaken, of just like losing something that you once thought was good for you. And that's just a common theme that I kept tapping into. And yeah, just kept rolling. And like, I don't know, I just got excited when I was making the music. If I'm honest, I was just in the studio. We really started making, sorry if I'm ranting by the way, but we really started like making the music at like 3 months before COVID, and like everything was shut down. There was snow everywhere. We were just locked in the studio. That's all we could do. So like literally, like I just got happy just from just making music. I was like, what is this? I don't know what it is. And we just kept going. And like honestly, true props to like my executive producer, his name's Ozcan, just saying. He's like literally like my brother. He built this whole project with me, my vision. And he was the one that really pushed me, because I feel like as an artist, you have to constantly recreate yourself. And that's like something that we always face, like just so we don't become stagnant, because consumers nowadays, more than anything, especially with TikTok, like they just want new things 24/7. Their attention spans are so short. And I feel like this album is not for necessarily the people that can just pick it up and put it down, because that's what I did with my last project with Black Lotus. I wanted this album to really sit in a timestamp of like my career and be known as like an era of Dust to Dawn, and where people can look back on and just remember some memories and connect with, because there's so many highs and so many lows. And I feel like it blends perfectly as like an album should be, because I feel like a lot of people aren't making projects where it just seamlessly goes through anymore. So yeah.
It's definitely a timeless album. It's definitely something that's gonna be relevant and live on for decades and decades. It's one of the few projects that I've listened to that I've been like, every song on here is good and every song on here is really like meaningful. So yeah.
I appreciate that for real.
Yeah, of course. So you mentioned that you grew up in, I'm not even gonna not gonna say not gonna embarrass myself. Like
Chilliwack.
Chilliwack.
Yes, chili walk.
Oh God. Okay. Um, all right. So yeah, you grew up in Chilliwack and you listened to Kid Cudi a lot, and that's kind of when your connection to music or your, I guess, passion for music sprang forth. Uh, do you find yourself kind of drawing inspiration from Kid Cudi or and other artists that you would like listen to at that time?
100%. Like at the time, rap wasn't like really big in an isolated area like a town like Chilliwack. So just picking up an XXL magazine and like seeing like MGK on it or like Hobson or Schoolboy Q or any of these artists at the time that I was just fascinated with, because my mom would play like Whitney Houston, my dad would play Johnny Cash. So like hip hop was not around, and like I started making music at like 13, right? And part of my language, but my balls didn't drop, so my voice was so high, and like it sounded awful, and like I don't know. So just
Were
like
you rapping or singing?
I was rapping and it was awful. It was, anyways, but yeah. So like inspiration for this project, I guess, of just the people I listen to a lot now is like Kid Cudi. I feel like he has so much artistic integrity, and what really resonated with me at the time was he was talking about he didn't have a dad around, and that really resonated with me. And like, the soundtrack to my life, the prayer, like those OG cuts, like that's what really like hit me as a young man. And like, who else I listened to back then? Post Malone, I listen to a lot now. I think he's an insane genre-bending artist. Kanye West, of course. I feel like he constantly reinvents himself, and that's what I really wanted to pull for on this project. And The Weeknd, Old Travis, Rodeo. So just those artists that I think are just timeless artists. That's what I want to aspire to be one day, and just leave a legacy for real, just a creative legacy.
Okay. Well, you're certainly on your way there, especially with this album. Um, you played rugby and you would have a quote on your cleats, and it's to whom much is given, much will be tested. Why did you have that? Like, what did that mean to you? And do you apply it to your life now as you're pursuing music?
100%. Like that, I got to get that tattooed at some point. To whom much is given, much is tested. My dad, I got this from my dad, this tattoo. It's St. Christopher, protection of travels and stuff. But that quote he told me once. And yeah, he's still my superhero. Like, it basically means to me, like, everything isn't promised, I think, in life. And I think you can work your ass off for as long as you want and do everything right, but it's still never promised. And when you finally do get those opportunities and start to see success, just always remember that, it's not going to last forever. Like, you're always going to be tested. Like, you're going to have so many highs and so many lows. And I get constantly reminded by my parents to never get too high, never get too low, and just stay in the middle and stay focused. And I think that's one thing a lot of artists in like interviews, because like I've just been obsessed with this lately, like just watching these interviews of these artists, like even Drake. That's one thing that he always says is, I never get too high, never get too low, never celebrate too much. It's always just stay focused on that lane. And I feel like you can resonate with that just as much as anyone, because we're constantly looking for that next thing. We're never satisfied. And that's ultimately going to be our failure, because we just got to be happy sometimes and just breathe in the moment. And I think right now more than ever, like I feel like so like, like myself, and just confident with myself. And it's like the most blissful feeling I've ever had in my entire life. And I'm just really excited to just, drop this project and live by that quote. So I hope people can resonate with that.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering how, like, it's so hard, I think, to keep a level head and to keep focused, especially in the music scene, just because everything is so chaotic and there's so much going on all the time. Thank you for providing insight. I was kind of, yeah, curious about that. How do you like, stay focused and all that?
Honestly, like my parents and like my team around me, they honestly just keep me focused like 24/7. They just keep me locked in. So if I didn't, I get my ass beat. So
Good. Have people to keep you grounded and be real with you.
100%.
So you mentioned that Dawn was your favorite track off of Dust to Dawn, right?
Yeah, that's the one for me.
Okay. All right. I just
like Dawn, probably Deny, and then Dawn, Deny, then Forsaken, probably, or Have You. Yeah.
Okay. What do you have a least favorite? I know that's like probably no.
Um, damn.
You don't have to have one because it's your, it's your
Yeah,
project.
I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna say.
Oh wait, is there one?
Yeah, there's one, of course, but I'm not gonna say. So,
Why? Come on.
nah.
All
It's
right.
it's all good music. Maybe you'll find out one day. You just gotta listen to it, and then you'll know. But you know. But I don't know.
All right. Well, one day. Um, who is your like dream collab? If you could have collabed with anyone um on a song off of Dusk to Dawn, who would it be and what song would you have chosen?
Right now, it'd probably be Beam. I really like Beam a lot. Like his production, his lyrics, his flows. I think he's a genius. So I probably wanted to be Beam, and I wanted him to be on like uh, probably Ashes. I think Ashes would be crazy if it would be on there. Or like Kid Cudi on Dawn with the hums, or like The Weeknd on Forsaken with his vibrato. Like anything like that would be crazy.
Nice. Okay. Um, do you have any like I know this Dusk to Dawn hasn't even been released yet, but are you already like working on any new projects?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm already working on the new stuff, so I'm excited. I know I can't really say much about it, but I'm already been working on like the new era, so I'm really excited for you guys to hear what's next because I feel like that's the tipping point. Anybody can drop a project, but what's with the follow up? That's like the most important. So I'm making sure it's crucial right now.
Nice. Okay. How are you making sure that it's like just as good as this one since it is a follow-up? Like,
I guess that's a pressure that every artist faces and will continue to face for the rest of their life. You always, and like that's what my executive producer said too. Like no matter what, whatever you drop, it has to be better than your last, no matter what. That's the deadline rule. And I was like, yeah, well, I think it just comes with feeling and like trusting yourself, honestly. Because if it makes me like I made this project just based off how it made me feel. If it gave me emotion, I felt something, then you just got to cross your fingers that that message gets across. So with this new music that's coming, there's a bit more pressure, but it's exciting and it's just fun because I feel like I leveled out like a plate right now with so many different flavors and stuff. So now I can just really go anywhere I want. And I'm just excited to just show people what I can do more of.
nice. Okay. Um, so you sort of fell into music after you things with rugby didn't work out. If you hadn't have fallen into music and you still, like sports wasn't an option, what do you think you would have gone for?
So no music and no rugby is what you're saying?
Right. Or no music and no sport of any kind.
Yeah. I'd probably want to be like a designer or something. I don't know. I'm not like the best dressed guy by any means, but like I think it'd be jiggy as hell to just design clothes or like jewelry. I think that'd be really cool. Yeah, I want to do that. Or like, I don't know, a tattoo artist. That'd be sick.
Oh, interesting.
Oh yeah, what would you want to do? If you never did this, what would you want to do?
Oh, oh no. Now I'm on the spot. I would honestly probably be a teacher.
Sure. You'd
Yeah.
be a good teacher.
Oh, thank you. Or a lawyer.
Yeah, lawyer would be hard too. They get better money, so.
Yeah. Thank God I'm not. Um, all right. Well, thank you so much for doing this. Do you have anything else, or is there anything that you want to plug? Anything that you want to say?
Well, I think by the time this comes out, the project's gonna be out, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, I hope everybody that's listening to it, I hope you enjoyed it. I really dumped my heart and soul into this. My team did it too. I hope you guys enjoy it. And I just know that it's coming from Vancouver, BC, and I'm trying to put on for the city. So thank you to everybody that's been supporting me up to this point. I can't wait for new shit to come. So thank you so much, Chelsea. Yeah. I really appreciate your time. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Make sure you follow Swagger RS for the latest in music, fashion, and creative culture.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Time Out, and be sure to subscribe, rate, and share the podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, be sure to follow us at SwaggerRS on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.